But in my 2025 attempt, I enrolled for test series with brainstorming sociology. And sir हम लोग को PYQ full length test लिखवाते थे and he would provide real time review जिसकी वजह से I could decode what is the actual demand of the question, how to answer questions जो मुझे नहीं पता है, but how do I use my existing knowledge and answer that question. या name dropping नहीं करनी है, I have to substantiate and open arguments. So this sort of balance I was able to achieve because of brainstorming sociology. And I think one of the main reasons why I was also able to improve my score was because of the guidance that I got from brainstorming sociology.
Hello, good morning everyone. Welcome to Brainstorming Sociology. Here we are going to talk about different sociological lens which has been recorded as a lecture 1. Why sociological lens becomes important? The first question that one should ask oneself. Why is this topic so important? It is not only important from the perspective of having a sociological understanding, but also it is helpful for PYQ linkages. How it is helpful? Because whenever any absurd topic or any other contemporary topic comes in the paper, we are often confused what to write. We are often confused that which part of the sociological syllabus has been interlinked and asked. How should we write this answer? How should we think on those pointers? So for that, sociological lens becomes the most important thing to look at. It also helps in interconnecting topics of paper 1 and paper 2. It is to be kept in mind, nothing are in silos. We are not to look at the topics in silos. We should always interconnect one paper with the other paper and write. Okay, because there is a defined syllabus, we know, but giving the essence of one topics in other gives that understanding to the examiner that we have a good command and hold over the subject. So why should we start with this first? The first thing is, as a sociologist, we are not going to give PhDs and degrees to the examiner, but we are going to show to the examiner that we have a hold over the subject with the lenses that the sociologists use. For that, we are trying to show you that we have the different perspectives from any answer you read. So, how to get help for absurd contemporary question? This is also the very important thing, because any question like what are the contemporary things happening in the marriages, what are the contemporary changes in the division of labor, any question you pick up from 2020 to 25, we have seen a continuous revised edition and changes in the paper which was only static in the nature. It has gone into analytical part, and in these type of questions we are supposed to write from these sociological lenses, at least to think the pointers. And yes, that only I was talking about, that thinking in pointers matters. Now, having a hold over the sociological perspectives or the lens gives us just not only to think from one point of view, it gives us that we will think from this point and again link with this topic, this topic, this topic, this topic. Like, let's take example. We can, how to relate Marx with AI, how to relate Karl Marx with poverty, how to relate him with gig economy, how to link Durkheim with social media, how to link Durkheim with religion. So these are the lenses. If we understand, just don't understand the thinker from one point of view. Try to understand that how should we apply that thinker, or how should we apply that concept of any topic or any thinkers, any ideology to the contemporary things. If we develop these lenses, we are surely going to hit the right targets in our examination. So what should be the final takeaway from this lecture? The final takeaway should be, don't rote learn chapters. It should start revising relationships of the contemporary with the concepts of sociology. So let's begin from the overall sociological perspectives. So let's start that how can we briefly have an overview of these perspectives. First, if we talk about, we can have Indological, where we talk about Indian lens. Next, we can talk about positivist or non-positivist. Then we can talk about functionalist. We can have an overview of ethnomethodology, symbolic interactionism, phenomenology, queer, conflict, Marxist, feminist. We can have it in 4 waves: liberal, cultural, radical, Marxist, environmental, postmodernist, subaltern, globalization. It is just to make you understand that it is one of the brackets of thinking. In these brackets, if we develop the understanding we are surely going to write wonderful answers and even have a good discussions which are important even to address the interview questions. So if we develop this lens, we are going to hit the right track in the examination. So let's go ahead. Let's start. Okay, before we start, let's understand how this topic gets important from the PYQs of 2025 recent examination. Like if we have questions given account of the recent trends of marriage in the Indian context, how are these different from traditional practices? So here in the Indian context, we are going to talk somewhere about the Indological perspectives and even how the changes have happened from the traditional to the recent trends which has come up. We can talk about it from different dimensions, what postmodernist thinks, what the feminist thinks, what the queer thinks, what the structural functionalism things. We can, if we develop this lens, we are surely, without any worries, we can develop better answers than our competitors. Again, if I go for the next question, like sociological significance of informal sector in the economy of developing society, how can we think from different perspectives? If we are generating those perspectives, then only we can have a multidimensional 8 to 10 points answer, else we can't have. So overall, at the end of this lecture, we will try to address these questions from the other perspectives that we have developed, just to show you a gist that how these questions are coming and how can we, having the linkages of the PYQ and then studying the topic gives us an edge that we are definitely studying in right direction. So like gender-based domestic division of labor. How can you think that gender is a different topic and domestic division of labor is a different topic? How is participation of women is a different topic? See, all the things are being asked in single question. So we need to have these interlinkages habits. If we have this understanding of interlinking, we are definitely going ahead and writing better answers than our competitors. So how can you assess the significance of social movements in digital era? So can you think that it has been asked from this topic or this syllabus, this part? We can't think. We have to think as an integrated whole. Okay, that was okay. You can go through the questions yourself. Also, queer kinship challenge in the traditional kinship system. All those, you are just seeing that how the pattern has changed, how it is being asked with the comparative basis, how it is being analytical. So just rote learning won't help anymore, right? So let's start. We'll have how should we approach this lecture? We should approach, the approach will be like this, that we'll study the concept from just a brushed up manner. You have already, I know you are all writing mains this year, and the other students who have, like, they have all a basic understanding of this topic, but we'll still go through like that, what is the gist of this perspective, and we'll understand with examples, and we'll just, if we have any PYQ, we can have the interlinkage, or I'll just try to connect the dots where we can use these perspectives, right? So let's start. Let's start with the first topic, which is the positivist. What positivists think? It is the studies of cause and effect, right? Cause and effect talks about the scientific approach. Here only statistics, rationality, empirical observation, this is being talked of. When these are things being talked of, then we are sure that we have to quote some data points. We have to connect with scientific things. When scientific things are being talked of, or any, you have to answer like any question which is there for you have to give the data points or anything. You can interlink and give. The positivist will approach this from this point of view. Here the examples we can see, that example talks of caste census, Niti Aayog's SDG index, PLFS, NFHS, etc. Right? So when we are talking about this, we know that it is talking about the positivist. Next, when we talk about the non-positivist, we are talking about the subjectivity, which was earlier not possible in the positivists. Earlier, which was possible only in the case of positivist, was the scientific approach. But here we are talking about the subjectivity. Whenever the word subjectivity comes, just think from the from the non-positivist perspective. Here we talk about the meanings, beliefs, experiences, and the various perspectives which can be compiled under non-positivist is feminism, queer, symbolic interactionism, phenomenology, and many more. You can surely get the dots yourself connected, but just to show you a overall view that what it is. Here we can take the examples of social media trends, mental health concerns, gender identity debates. Here we are all talking about the meanings, interpretations which we are drawing ourselves, which has a lot of subjectivity, right? And you can find like direct interlinkage with the UPSC PYQ where positivist versus non-positivist are asked. And sometimes it is also asked in the form of indirect questions where we need to address it as pointers. So from that point of view, it gets important. Coming to the next topic, which is the functionalist. Here the functionalist thinks that society is like a human body. Like here we have the function of organs, different organs function in their way, but they are helping the whole body to survive in a coordinated manner. In that manner, whole society becomes important, but the parts also has its own importance. Each institution contributes to the social order. The types can be classified as classical and neo. Institutions perform traditionally, which are only talking about the traditions, institutions. It is just being of classical functionalist. And neo-functionalists who are talking also about the modernization, globalization, how these are impacting. We are talking about them in the neo-functionalist. Like earlier, if we talk about the family, your reproduction or socialization was the only concept of the family, that it is helping in this manner only. But when we talk about the contemporary family, your contemporary family not only talks about the traditional roles, but also talks about the mental health support, apart from the traditional role that is being addressed. We have only seen ourselves in our family, that whatever the recent trends have come about, we have come out of it and we are just extending our roles in the family. Similarly, when we talk about the schools, here the schools talk about the earlier education plus discipline, but now AI literacy is being talked of, digital skills are being talked of, climate awareness are being talked of. So a multidimensional perspective for the student, a multidimensional development or the holistic development of the student is happening in the schools. So how can we talk about the functionalist as being in silos with the only traditional or classical ones? It has come up with a neo. I'm not going with the thinkers part. We have an approach of thinkers because we all learn the thinkers and try to put it here and there. But if we connect those dots, we have a good thinkers, one or two thinkers to be applied in any points. You can just coordinate and write it yourself. So we'll have a lecture of the thinkers later, but to make you understand, I'm not going with the thinkers right now, okay? Next, we are talking about the conflict perspective. In the conflict perspective, the Marxist specifically, the Marxists are being classified as the classical or the neo-Marxist. Here in the classical or neo-Marxist, how the classical is different from the neo-Marxist? Basically, economy is being as talked as the basic structure. At the base is the economy, haves versus have-nots that we have always heard from the Karl Marx perspective. Later, when neo-Marxists emerged, they talked not only of the economy, but they also talk of other reasons are existing. What are those other reasons? Culture plus economy, or culture plus anything else. But economy will be there, definitely. Marxist perspective, economy is one of the bases. So apart from those, we have to keep the understanding of other reasons too. So this should be kept in mind. Neo-Marxists are not only talking about the eco, but also of the culture part or any other part. Like example, if I take the gig workers demanding labor rights, platform capitalism, iPhone is being considered as conspicuous consumption. Earlier, only money thing was being talked of at the economy perspective, but now the social status in the society is mattering. How iPhone is not only being used by the rich class, but it has also gone into have-nots part too, and they are buying it on EMIs or UPI, whatever has extended beyond the limits, right? You can think from that perspective. Next comes the feminist. What feminist talks of? Originally there were 4 waves. Those 4 waves has been bracketed and kept, so that you can not only answer any question from feminist perspective, have a deeper understanding. What is liberal feminist talking about? What are the cultural or radical feminists talking about? What are the Marxists talking about? So if we classify and write, it gives us the edge that we are having a hold over the subject. So in liberal feminist, what are we trying to say? They are trying to bring reforms in the family, values, policy, etc. Whenever reform is being talked about, but from the existing society angle only. So that they want the system to happen, but just reforms are required. What type of reforms? Like example, campaign for women representation in the parliament. If we take this as an example, you are clear to understand what does the liberal feminist talk of, right? Next, if I talk about the cultural, they believe in structure, they are believing in structure, but culture issue is there. They are talking about that culture is not there. So debates for the care economy, that care economy should be monetized, as care should be one of those which should be brought into formal economy, and it should be, we have often heard about this debate. So from that perspective, this is the cultural feminist will talk about this. What about the radical feminists? They question the structure. They are questioning the basic structure. All are the means of exploitation. They have this certain thing in mind that everything relates to the exploitation part. Example, Me Too movement. If we connect this, we are able to understand the difference about the liberal, cultural, radical and Marxist. We know that they are only talking about the classic economy thing. Women not working, no rights to decide. This has been outrightly said. So here we can talk about the dual burden. What is the dual burden talks about? That whenever a woman is going out and working outside, apart from that, women has to come inside the homes and also work there. So where does justify that they are only working? So they are not working. They are not only having the rights to decide. They are having the dual burden of doing something. So in this manner, should be clear that liberal, cultural, radical, Marxist, they talk about in different forms. And it has happened in 4 waves, as I have talked about, right? And apart from these, we can also talk about the new perspective which has come out of the eco-feminist or the environmental feminism. The first impact of environment on women. It is always said that whatever the brunt of the nature be, it has to be faced by the women. Examples, we can talk that Vandana Shiva, being one of the famous thinkers of the environmental feminism or eco-feminist angles, she talks about that whatever it is, it has to be first faced by the women. Like debates for women's ecological knowledge related to climate change. We can often talk about this from the economist or environmental feminism. Next, if I talk about it as the postmodernists. What does postmodernists? They don't believe in like grand theories. They don't believe that only one theory or anything is existing. They are not believing this. Society no longer shaped by one fixed truth. No fixed truth is there. Instead, fragmented. Outrightly don't believe in structure. So they frame new social realities. According to them, new social realities are being framed. Media, advertisements, social media, apart from structure, they are talking about the hyper reality. So the easiest way to connect is from the influencer culture. Whatever is there in the news or anything, influencing. So any other thing can influence anything, right? So this culture is being developed. So how can you talk that whatever was modern is not modern anymore? Like any more angles are being added to this. It's not one grand theory. Fake news and narratives are also, ideologies are also developed. It is also framing something. Identity politics is being talked of. Gender, sexuality, caste, etc. is being talked of. So postmodernists are simply, you can think from one line, they don't believe in structures. They have their hyper realities and they are talking about the framing of the new social realities. Next, if I talk about, it is the environmental perspective. Environmental perspective talks about how society and nature affect each other. Like the social system is affecting the environmental problems. How the social system is there and it has helped occurring the environmental issues like heat waves and climate change, floods and displacement, climate protests. All these are not to be thought of in silos. This have the interlinkages where we have to talk about that how one is impacting the other. So this is one of the angles of writing the answer for any sustainability related question, for any SDG goals related questions. All these questions can have these perspective, right? Next, if I talk about, one of the most important subaltern perspectives which one sociologist always thinks of, it is the bottom-up way of studying society. They're talking about the marginalized communities, SC, ST, OBC, women. Here also different thinkers come and talk about it, but I'm not going about that in detail. I'm just trying to make you understand that what this perspective originally means, or just to make you understand in simple layman language so that you can have a broader edge in the exam. You can't remember broad theories while writing those complex answers or contemporary questions. So just keep those perspective, like how subaltern things, how postmodernist things, how this things, how functional things, how ecofeminist things. If have this edge, I can promise you that you can definitely write better answers than your counters who have not having this knowledge. So what are they talking about? They criticize elite or mainstream histories for ignoring the voices of common people. Wherever the voices of common people have been ignored, it has been talked of in subaltern perspective. Dalit movements, women in informal work, farmer protests, grassroots movements, tribal displacement, all these talk about the subaltern perspectives, right? Take examples, anything which is happening, whatever be the angle of, like whenever we are talking about those manual scavengers. So who are going to talk about them? Are you thinking that anybody else is going to talk about them apart from the first person who will come and talk about them are the sociologists from the subaltern perspectives people only? So whenever we are talking about them, that Dalits, women, all those marginalized, SC, ST, OBC, women, tribals, even the transgenders can be one of those angles from here also, right? Apart from the queer perspective. So have those knowledge about who has to be included in what perspective. Don't need to write it in like subaltern only or this only, that only perspective directly, but it is definitely helping you think and build the concept behind and write it on paper. Okay, coming to the next, queer perspective. Here the challenge is the idea that only heterosexual, male or female identity exists. They are challenging the binary, that gender is not only binary. They support fluid identity. There is a fluidness in the identity. So whenever the debates about the same-sex marriage, whenever the debates about the inclusive education plus workplace plus pride movements, all these can be linked from this queer perspective. Even for inclusivity in the workplace, professionals or anything. So have this edge that we have to keep in mind about the queer perspective whenever, because this is the contemporary thing that is happening in our newer society which is being talked of. So many things from this perspective can be connected in every answer, I must say. Okay, coming to the next is the symbolic interactionism. So here we talk about the symbols, words, gestures, objects, how people create meanings through everyday interactions using symbols like words, gestures, objects, anything can be talked of. Your symbolic interactionism, the very first thing which we read about it is the G.H. Mead's concept of the development of self, development of I versus me. So it is a debate and how the I gets developed and how the me. Okay, we are not going about that in detail, but just I'm trying to make you explain that how can this perspective be one of the key edges for writing your answer. Focus on how these shared meanings shape behaviors and identity of self. They are being talked about the micro level of understanding, macro level, not micro level, detailing parts, small parts. So like examples, black dress at a funeral means respect and mourning. Namaste culture of India, tricolor flag, significance of a nation, significance of the unity, significance of harmony. How can we talk about from the tricolor flag? So and also we have talked about the G.S. Mead's I versus me. So symbolic interactionism is helping us develop that overall understanding of a society by the symbols or the gestures that is being, like handshake is here. Anywhere else it's a namaste culture. It's we say namaste somewhere, we are saying vadakkam somewhere, we are saying anything to greet, right? So different cultures, but what is the meaning coming out of it? So those meanings has to be interpreted with the interactions, right? Next, when we are talking about the globalization perspective, we are talking about the effect of global trade, technology, culture, migration, communication across countries, and we are talking about the interconnectedness. We are talking about the time-space compression, where the time and space are being compressed, and it has been talked about one of the famous thinkers. You can go through it. And also we know that how in this world, when we are talking about in this global world, in today's world, nothing is happening in silos if we talk again. So all this has been, all the dots needs to be connected. So what is the best way to connect it? That is the globalization. So it has to be one of the important perspectives of the sociologists, right? So if we talk about examples, the recent examples, the foreign universities that are being set up in India, it has been approved, like University of Bristol, University of Liverpool, MNCs in India. So, and again, if we come from the food angle, we have the Italian pizza common in Indian households these days, or the burger, aloo tikki burger. So it has definitely become globalization and localization. So have this perspective, global plus local, how are these dots being connected? If we have this edge, we are going to talk about the networking of the society in this manner, right? We have other thinkers too, but just have a edge of what to write. Next, if I talk about, we are talking about the institutional perspective. Here, institution means whatever has been framed already in our society, that institutions, what those are role being played by that, and how they are helping us shape the humans or the society themselves. So studying the society through institutions like family, education, religion, economy, law, state, etc. and seeing how these shape people's behavior, values and roles. This is just a simple layman understanding. That's why I have just kept it simple short. how should you use this perspective to basically make you understand this. In mains, when you are writing continuously, you can't have thoughts to like break down, right? So in this, if we have hold of these perspectives, you can generally have a built-in flow for the answer. So example can be increase in poverty, child labor, female feticide, show how state is failing as an institution. Whenever these are increasing in the society, so we are trying to show that how the state has failed. So from that angle we can show it from. So any negative type of things have happened, or any like gender division of labor, anything. So you can show you can draw connect those dots and write that institutional perspective talks about this, how this has changed. So for any PYQ we can have this interconnectedness. Next I have Indological perspective. This is the most easiest way for paper 2 angle, but also for the paper 1 we can use this as one of the perspectives. Study of the Indian society through ancient texts, scriptures, cultural traditions. Here we talk about the like studying the caste, family, marriage, etc. by referring to ancient Sanskrit text or any history angle from the Indian perspective, right? No other approach. Indian approach, every problem to be looked at from Indian perspective. If we have this, then it is only we are referring to as Indological. Next coming, one of the most differentiated topics are ethnometrology and phenomenology. It is often confused by the students, but I have just tried to explain you with the help of examples so that you're not confused but have a broader understanding of what this ethnometrology means and what this phenomenology means. Methods people use in daily life. What are the methods? That is ethnomethodology. Ethno means people and method means whatever the things are being used. So day-to-day practices are being talked of. Like example, in online classes of students, different methods used for interaction. What can be the different methods? Chat feature, sending emojis, raising hands, all these are the features. So when these features are being used, these are the different methods. Unwritten rules for conduct at a place. It is also not mentioned, but we know that this is the method that is being used. But whereas phenomenology, we are talking about interpretation of meanings and orientation. What are the interpretation that we are talking about? It is the experience, you can say. Like AI-based study by a student may experience relief, fear, guilt. Anything can be experienced, right? So whatever the experience are being talked of, that is being talked about in phenomenology. Whatever the background thing, interpretation, how are the people interpreting? Like if we take example that monsoons are not coming or the rain is not happening. So we have the scientific positivist, how they will think that okay, the clouds are not working, clouds have not formed, or the climate change has happened. Whatever the dots of statistical angle can be connected with the positivist. But what will phenomenologists think? Like if we take any tribal example, that they are telling that this time the deity is not happy with the prayers that has been offered, or this thing has been sins are being of Kali and everything, so this is not happening. So what are we trying to explain? This is the something ideological. They are interpretation of those meanings and orientation. They are interpreting in that way and manner. So any fear before the interview we have. So what is it? This is the interpretation. This is the what is happening is just being interpreted. So this is one of the examples of ethnometrology and phenomenology. I think you can get that right, and it will help you understand. So overall we have discussed phenomenology, ethnometrology, Indological, institutional, globalization, symbolic interactionism, queer perspective, subaltern perspective, environmental, postmodernist and feminist, conflict, also functionalist, positivist, non-positivist. So this is just a broader overview of having you understand that how can you think from sociological lens. I think you got me right. And so now let's try to discuss that how this can be applied. Like if I talk about that, like this question, if I pick, what do you understand by the gender-based, this question, what do you understand by the gender-based domestic division of labor? Is it undergoing a change in the wake of increasing participation of women in formal employment? Clarify your answer with illustrations. So I'm not talking about in details, just I'm trying to make you understand that how can this lens will help you, give you edge of thinking. How can you think? You can think from the structural functionalists. You can think that how Parsons viewed the division of labor as functional for family stability, how men perform the instrumental role, how women perform the expressive role. This and then you can also talk about feminist perspective, right? What feminists are talking about, they are talking about the patriarchy and gender inequality. They are talking about the unpaid work that women is doing. You can talk about Marxist perspective. You can talk about the what Marxists will think. They will argue about that family reproduces labor power for capitalism. So this can be one of the angles. You can think that how gig economy workers depend on invisible household labor performed by the women. So this is one of those angles from the Marx perspective. You can also think from the conflict, that is only Marx perspective. Conflict perspective only talks about that working women increasingly negotiate financial decisions. So all these angles can be put up. I'm not just giving you point by point answer, but I'm trying to help you think how can you build up your answer. How can you think that whenever a question of such type is asked, what all things should come to your mind first. How can you think from the symbolic interactionist perspective? What symbolic interactionists talk about? That gender roles are created and reproduced through everyday interactions. So like again, we can also think from the queer perspective that gender is not about whatever being talked about in binary. It is a fluid concept. So we can also talk about how cultural capitalism is being developed, how postmodern thinks in a different way, that their family forms are becoming diverse. How can you relate it with the like different angles you can relate it with, right? How Indian sociological perspective, like I'm talking about the Indian sociological perspective, where we are talking about the Indological angle, that how Indian families are changing but retaining traditional gender expectations, how even women still date are going outside, but still whatever the household chores they have to come and complete themselves only. They are not going to depend on anyone else. So how can you connect those dots? How can you connect with women? How can you connect with, you have to think from the critical evaluation point of view also. So a rising female education is the positive part. You can talk about that labor force participation has increased in the professional sectors, but we have the persistent challenges are also there. So talk about all those challenges. The double burden is there. Second shift is being called off. That glass ceiling is being dual burden, glass ceiling, rural urban divide, how patriarchal socialization. So I'm not talking, again I'm repeating it for the nth time, that I'm not talking for any single answer over here. I'm just trying you to think. I'm just trying you to help you think that how should you think for any question. How can you think, or how can you use this sociological lens for developing the overall perspective? How can you approach any question, like what is the nature of relationship between science religion in modern? Will you think that it has been asked for sociology, this syllabus, this part, or you will think from different perspectives? So for building any answer, having this clarity of concept is very important. If you have this edge, that you have got the concept clear, you have got the, so again if I talk about that, when I was talking about this, that interlink Marx with AI, interlink Marx with poverty, whenever you think from any perspective, whenever you're talking about any contemporary thing, just try to analyze that topic and just pick that topic. Okay, AI, I can link with AI with Marx in this manner. If I think AI with Durkheim, then he will talk about this. If I think from feminist, they will talk about this. If I think that how queers are being benefited, they will talk about this. How they are facing challenge, how the subaltern will. So don't think that we have to study only subaltern, we have to study only Marx. No. Have a topic, have an edge, that okay, I have this topic, I will think from all these perspectives. So here you are ready to go for any question, any answer in the paper, which will not only help you write the UPSC PYQs, but also help you understand that any absurd question from anywhere, like these days GS questions are being asked in sociology. How will you deal with it? So dealing this becomes easy when we have that overall understanding of the society in this manner. I hope you got me right. I hope that you have got an edge of how to think, and I hope that you like this lecture. First of all, thank you so much for hearing me out patiently, and just go through it multiple times to have an perspective more clear, to get the things more right, and give me feedback of how did you like this lecture or not, how should I improve even. to connect these dots, or whatever you think that it should have been included. I think more PYQs needs to be interlinked, but I just wanted you in the first class to have an edge of how to think. So thinking from that perspective gets important. Thank you so much. Thank you for patiently hearing me out. I just would love to hear your feedback. Thank you so much.
फिर चेंज किया, मैंने उसमें अपनी प्रेजेंटेशन पे काम किया। कॉन्सेप्चुअल क्लैरिटी की प्रॉब्लम थी ही नहीं, क्योंकि जो कॉन्सेप्ट्स थे वो क्लियर थे सारे, क्योंकि मैंने बहुत सारी बुक्स वगैरह उसके लिए पढ़ी थी। लेकिन मुझे समझ में आया कि इसको लिखने का तरीका मुझे चेंज करना है बस। प्रेजेंटेशन, कंटेंट एंड एवरीथिंग हैज टू अलाइन विद द आंसर। सो दिस टाइम मैंने क्या किया कि मैंने आई जॉइंड ब्रेनस्टॉर्मिंग सोशियोलॉजी this is a Telegram platform, and they have a very good revision notes, as well as they have a PYQ solving videos। तो उनके solution videos है वो, जिसमें वो लोग PYQ को solve करते हैं। तो इस साल मैंने कहीं पे भी कोई टेस्ट सीरीज ज्वाइन नहीं की। मैंने सारा जो PYQ अलाइनमेंट है, क्योंकि मुझे ये समझ में आ गया कि ऑप्शनल में PYQ के जो थीम्स होते हैं वो रिपीट होते हैं।